Hey folks, Tom with Boscoyo here. I want to talk about the instruction video for putting together the IcosaStar. We're going to be putting together the 4-foot version, which is 140 nodes. It's $120. Again, it's 4 foot in diameter. It's 10 millimeter Coro for the sphere. It comes with 20 panels for the each year. And there's an 8-foot version, which is $320, and that is actually the same concept. It's larger, but instead of bullets, it's actually floodlights. If you ever seen Ricky Coudier on the Great Christmas Light Fight, one of his trees had the 8-foot version with the floodlights. All right, so let's talk assembly. So assembly pretty straightforward. You want to start with the inner part here. And there's two sides. So the key piece here is you have slots. And the other key piece here is that as you start to put this together, you're going to have two big bundles. One's going to be the top, one's going to be the bottom. And then you're going to have one set that goes across. Now, as always, we tend to over-engineer things, so there's more holes than you'll ever need. So I typically just stay to the ends when I put this together. The other key piece is you're thinking when you get it to put it here, and I apologize about the dog in the background. But this is not what you want to do, because even though it looks better this way, but as you can see in the holes here, it closes up the gap. And when you look at the lenses need to go into that gap. So a lot of first mistakes is you go and put this all together this way, and it goes together quite nicely, but that's not the way you want to do it. So you want to flip it over and go this direction as you're going across. Now, my biggest tip for you is do not tighten the zip ties as you go around. Leave them as loose as you can, and in the end, you start to tighten them all together, because once you get all this together and you start putting these lenses in, and I'll show you when I get to that part, you'll have a hard time getting these tabs through it. So leave them loose, and I'll show you what that looks like as we get this together. The other key piece is when you're doing the zip ties, always start from the outside on this one, and I'm using black just for this demonstration, just so you can see the contrast at the end. Make sure you go, from the outside to the inside, so that when you put this all together, when you start to put all this together, you'll be able to cut the ends off. So anyway, I'll go ahead and start putting this together, and then we'll come back at the final steps. All right, just another quick tip. Your tendency is going to want to be to roll it as you put it together. Make sure you're doing side to side, and as you start to come towards the end, kind of gauge it first before you start putting in the final zip ties. So as you can see here, as I was talking about, you're going to start getting a bundle of zip ties here and here, and then you're going to have certain ones coming across. Now, important, when you're coming across, and this is really important, do not over tighten these either. Matter of fact, I left mine loose in my IcosaStar just because the lenses need to get in here, because as you put this together, as you can see, you need to leave that gap there. So if you put them too tight, then it overlaps you. You can't put it in there. And then people fight with that. So you want to keep it loose so that you can kind of do that. So anyway, I'll finish up the spear. All right, so we pretty much got everything together here. So as you can see, I've left the zip ties loose. So let's talk about a few key points here. Number one, determine what's going to be your top and what's going to be your bottom. The other thing you got to consider is how are you going to mount it? Because once you get the lenses on there, it's a little tough to mount. So what I did with mine is I determined which one was my bottom, and I wrote B on the bottom, and then that's where my pigtails come out, right? I went ahead and put a little extension on it, so it came out further and went past this part, so it was easy to get to. But what I did is right here is I notched out all of this in a circle, and then you can put a 3/4 pipe in there. And with the weight and all that kind of stuff, it really doesn't move anywhere, and the pipe settles up on the wires at the top, and it really doesn't. It doesn't move. It didn't move. I think Ricky, when I talked to him once with his, he actually took out an entire panel to mount his and for his big mega tree. He might be able to comment below what he did, but I'm pretty sure he said he removed one entire panel because it's going to be covered up by the pipe anyway. So definitely options to do, but the other key piece here is if you don't have tough hands, once you start getting to this point, put you some gloves on. These are very sharp edges, and as it starts to come together, it'll cut you in a heartbeat. So what I like to do now is I go to the top side, and this is what I was talking about, the one piece that kind of comes across that puts it all together. And as you can see, as you start to tighten it, if you don't tighten it right, then these slots are going to get off, right? So as you bring it together, just be, cognizant of where you're tightening and how much you're tightening. And again, leaving it a little bit loose isn't going to matter because this is going to be covered in pixels or the floodlights anyway. So I chose to leave mine loose just for the fact I can get it on and off. So other than that, what I'll do is I'll start to tighten this up, and then we'll do 1 or 2 lenses, and then the rest you can just go from there. All right? So as you can see, I've tightened everything up. And again, I left everything loose here. And I also, for you zip tie warriors, is I actually left these kind of clips on the end. So in the end, if I want to come back and tighten it, I could. So that's also another tip you can do, and if you tighten it too much, it's just a matter of cutting one off, put it in there. Just keep in mind, though, getting your hands in here now is going to be a fun problem. So that's also why I leave them loose, so they're easier to cut, number one. And number two, once you cut 2 or 3, you'll be able to reach your hand in, replace a pixel, things like that. So again, notice the flutes are on the outside. This helps with the rain drainage, number one. And number two, now you can see the slots are ready for each one of the lenses. And again, another reason why you don't tighten it is because of that gap right here. If you tighten it too much, it will kind of squish over, and then you won't be able to get the lenses through there. Because remember, you're going to have 2 lenses going in. One of the tabs for one lens and one of the tabs for the other lens going in each one of these. So let's talk about the lenses for a second. The lenses are pretty easy peasy. I will admit, on my first one I messed up a lens and had to get another one. But that's because I didn't know what I was doing and did it backwards. So again, your tendency here is to think, well, let me fold it this way, with the flutes not showing. But again, that makes it hard to do, and then it's actually harder to kind of put it together. And again, zip ties galore, so you really don't need that many. So I go the opposite direction. It's easier to put together, and then I usually do top, middle, and bottom. I'm not going to do that for every star here because I'm obviously going to be taking this back apart. So I'll do a couple. I'll put a couple in the sphere here, but it's pretty self-explanatory at this point. You come in, you line them up with the slots, right? And then I'm not going to lie, you got to kind of do it back and forth until you get them all in. And then they will just go in just like that. Easy peasy. And then the hard part is actually getting the lens over. So again, I will leave the zip ties slightly loose here until the last possible moment so that I can finagle this to get through here, right? So other than that, that's pretty much how this goes. The only other advice I would give you is get a 4-inch pipe or a 6-inch pipe, or 4-inch pipe would be better, or anything. And then once you get your first lens in, then literally stick it down in the pipe, and now you can work around, right? Because once you start putting all these lenses together, it gets kind of hard putting it around. Plus, it's 4 feet, and it's definitely a DIY. So I found the trick of putting this in a pipe. I'll go ahead and put a couple more lenses on here, but you pretty much get the point. All right, folks, just to kind of reiterate here. So when you're putting in your lenses, try to start on the side that has the lens already. So the tab, you want to start on this side so you get that one in first, because you can use your fingers here. Once you start to get all the rest of the lenses in, it's a good idea to maybe get a butter knife or something like that just to push these tabs in. All you got to do is just very ever so slightly push it in so that the tabs go all the way in. And then, my other advice is definitely use a 4-inch pipe here or something similar so that you can kind of work around, keeping your strong hand, so to speak, being able to work on the lenses. So other than that, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or questions again, just let us know, and we'll answer the best we can. Thanks.